It's now over 25 years ago that the great Spanish cycling champion Miguel Indurain Early retired from top competition after giving in to the doped up Bjarne Riis in the 1996 Tour de France. Many immediately became suspicious about Indurain. If he beat cyclists who were doped, like Marco Pantani or Peter Ugrimov, how could Indurain be clean? Why was he involved with controversial doctors involved in other doping cases, like Sabino Padilla or Professor Francesco Conconi? Why did he defend riders like Lance Armstrong, who we all knew later were real world-class cheats? Indurain has managed to maintain, now over 25 years later, his image as a clean, calm and generous sportsman. However, you may not know that he also had his own particular doping scandal. Do you want to hear about it? Without further ado, let the show begin. In 1994, Miguel Indurain was already a superstar of the sport, not only in Spain, where he was a true idol of the masses, representing the whole country in the purest Richard Carapaz style in Ecuador today, but also on half the planet after winning 3 Tour de France and 2 Giro d'Italia in a row. For that season, he wanted to emulate Eddy Merckx himself and win 3 Tours of Italy in a row. So his participation in the great Italian stage race was assured. However, before going to the Italian peninsula, he decided to ride a small stage race in France, one which he had already ridden on several occasions, the Tour de l'Oise. In this competition, Miguel Indurain won the final victory after beating in the final time trial the Frenchman of the Z team, Eddie Signor, by only 5 seconds. Everything seemed fine, but at the end of the race, very close to the beginning of the Giro d'Italia, rumours began to go from mouth to mouth within the small cycling universe. Apparently, the French Federation had confirmed to the Benesto team that Miguel Indurain had tested positive in the anti-doping controls of that Tour de l'Oise. And not just for any substance. No, it was salbutamol. Salbutamol is an element that is used in inhalers for asthmatics, a disease that affects 10% of the world's population. And interestingly and coincidentally, 40% of high-level athletes, including Chris Froome himself, who was seen inhaling Ventolin in these images, and who also tested positive for salbutamol in the Vuelta a España, which he won on the road. For medical experts in doping, salbutamol can be a substance that improves the cyclist's performance, especially in events that require continuous effort. But Dr. Sabino Padilla, Miguel Indurain's trainer at the time, was not at all worried. He knew that it was a substance allowed by the UCI as long as the athlete had a TUE or a medical authorization to ingest all the amounts of salbutamol prescribed by his doctor. Indurain had it, so he knew that even if he had been positive, as has happened with many other athletes throughout history, he could continue to compete. However, rumours continued to grow within the cycling world in 1994, and Indurain decided not to push the machine too hard in the Giro d'Italia. In that edition, the Italian teams, well prepared by Dr. Ferrari, were flying, and Indurain was not willing to put himself at the same level after receiving a scare from the French cycling authorities. And thus, we saw Miguel Indurain fail in his attempt to win his 3rd Giro d'Italia, where he rode the worst time trial in his 5-year winning streak, losing more than 2.5 minutes to the winner, Yevgeny Berzin. And nor could he cope with the rookie, Marco Pantani, in his first exhibition as a professional cyclist, and he ended up on the podium, but in 3rd place, and with a much lower profile than he had shown so far. Indurain was, as calm as he was, worried about the 1994 Tour de France. Tony Rominger had won the Vuelta a España with insulting ease, and for the first time the French press, after having been fed up with Indurain's positive result in l'Oise, did not place the Spaniard as the main favourite to win the Tour. However, once the Tour de France started, the Spaniard from Benesto got rid of all his demons and almost literally beat Tony Rominger in the time trials and on hard climbs such as Hotelcam, to win his 4th consecutive Tour de France by a wide margin over Peter Ugrimov and Marco Pantani. The positive result had not yet been communicated to the press, and the cyclist from Navarre was able to celebrate his triumph with all the calm in the world, especially in Spain where he was still seen as a god. It was at the end of August, specifically on the same day that Luc Leblanc was proclaimed world champion in Agrigento, when the French press published in the inside pages that Miguel Indurain had tested positive for salbutamol 3 months later, and when the Spanish cyclist already knew that he wasn't going to be sanctioned. Fans started to debate Indurain's cleanliness, but the Spaniard was so calm that 3 days later he broke the hour record, with his doctor Sabino Padilla cheering him on from the sidelines as if he were a football hooligan. Evidently, Indurain knew that he had the upper hand. None of his rivals, who were related to doctors like Michele Ferrari or Luigi Cecchini, were going to accuse Indurain of doping. They also knew that outside the Tour de France, as Lance Armstrong did, they were going to have their chance. And even 2 years later, they dared to beat him outright in France. Many may ask, what does the great Spanish champion think about doping?
No, yo creo que en el ciclismo hay unas normas muy estrictas, muy exigentes, y cuando hay unas normas muy estrictas, pues siempre hay casos.
As you can see, Indurain, sparing in words as always, considers that as long as there is no abuse on the part of the athlete, the use of products that improve the cyclist's performance allowed by doctors and organisers does not pose any inconvenience to him. As of today, it is practically impossible for Indurain to test positive again. The oldest preserved EPO samples, as far as we know, are from 1998, when Big Mig was already retired. He is still a man with many sponsorships, respected and powerful in Spain. He even sells thousands of energy bars, which he claims were his great secret to success. And what do you think about the great Spanish cycling champion?
Ahora te saben por tus abusos, por lo que te has metido, tal, pues mucha gente comenta.
Sí,
Se ha comentado, yo lo he oído, yo por ejemplo,
No sé qué me ha llegado.